my lovely audience. Hi, I'm Danny, and today I'm going to teach everyone how to steek a sweater open. So to steek a sweater, you need the most important thing is the sweater. Mine is mostly finished, and we'll talk about that, why that's important in a little bit. You also are going to need scrap yarn, thread, measuring tape, buttons, needles, sharp scissors, and optional ribbon. So first off, this is the scariest thing a knitter, crocheter, anyone who works with wool can do, and that is to take a perfectly good sweater and cut it open. So why do we do this? We do this because there are two types of sweaters. There's the cardigan like we're going to create, and a pullover. This is a pullover. You knit this in a big circle. It's literally a tube. They're much easier to knit. It's easier to keep your color work even and pretty, your stitches even and pretty. It's just easier to do. Most knitters find it more convenient to knit one way as opposed to having to knit back and forth because switching like that is hard on your hands. And also it just looks better. They tend to look a little bit more polished and finished. So steeking, what is it? It's a traditional Fair Isle technique that is dated back to the 15 to 1700s. There isn't really a great date in Scotland. People there created these very ornate sweaters, and it was mostly used not to create cardigans, but actually to create sleeves. Because of the sleeve shaping, it was just easier to knit the tube and then cut it open than to knit back and forth just for the sleeve section. Nowadays, it's probably applied far more to cardigans, which is what we're going to be doing today. So all this comes from Uni Jones, who's a historian. She's written pretty extensively her own books, as well as in Vogue Knitting and Interweave Knitting, which are two major knitting magazines. And her technique, as well as Elizabeth Zimmerman, who's sort of the godmother of knitting, is to machine steek these, to take a machine, sewing machine, and you actually would sew. So you would take your yarn and you would sew it with a machine. It's supposed to be more secure, especially for yarn that is not natural. It's been treated and not as sticky and isn't as grabby. Since most original steekers would have been using very, very sticky wool that would eventually felt and rub together and stabilize itself. Since most knitters don't use that now, we like to use things that are machine washable. My technique of steeking, which is crochet steeking, has become more and more popular, as well as the machine steeking. So what you do with crochet steeking, as I've done here on my sweater, is you do a single line of crochet around a center stitch. So as you can see, there's my center stitch. This is where we're going to be cutting in a minute. So I've created a grab. So when I cut, the yarn will get folded up into this crochet steek and it won't just unravel my whole sweater, which is why this is so terrifying because it's always a possibility. So this technique is used by two other very prolific knitters. Kate Davies, who has a PhD and is possibly one of the biggest experts on Shetland knitting techniques, recommends crochet steeking. Although her way of finishing, which is not the way we'll be using today, is the crochet sandwich. So as you can see here, I've knitted both sides and I've caught my steek up between two knitting, and then you'll bind off and it'll be hidden away completely secure. The reason we're using the ribbon is because today we're going to use the ribbon to secure it down. So I'm going to cut my sweater open in about 2 minutes, and then you'll sew this edge down and sew a ribbon on top, and it'll be nice, secure, it won't go anywhere, and your sweater won't unravel. So let's do this. So I've already secured everything on my steek. I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm going to open up my knitting, and I'm going to do the most terrifying thing a knitter can do, and I'm just going to cut. So here we go. I won't do the whole thing because of time, but as we can see, I've started cutting. So after I've cut, I'll take my needle and my thread, and I will sew this down on the inside, which will fold my button band forward. This is my button band. And at the very end, I have a completely open and wonderful sweater. So steeking is one of those amazing things that's been handed down from knitter to knitter for hundreds of years. Still finding mallet applications and reinventions, and it's one of my personal favorite techniques because I'm a very lazy knitter and it makes my life easier. Thanks for listening, and say goodbye, audience.
Bye.